The keys beneath Marcus's fingers felt like brittle bones, each note echoing hollow in the dim apartment, a requiem for something long buried. The fog pressed against the windows like a shroud, muffling the distant wail of the coastal city's sirens, turning sound into ghosts. He paused, his unseeing eyes narrowing as if they could pierce the veil. A faint, irregular hum vibrated through the floorboards, not quite a machine, not quite the wind. Something insidious lurking just beyond his grasp. In his mind, the melody fractured memories of crowded halls and applause, now reduced to this solitary discord. Why play at all? The question hung in the air, heavy as the salt-tanged mist seeping under the door, his breath sinking with the room's uneasy pulse. Yet his hands lingered, drawn to the piano, like a moth to shadowed flame, sensing the approach of a storm he could not name. The apartment clung to the edge of the coastal bluff, its walls scarred by years of relentless sea spray, the air thick with the metallic bite of rust and brine that coated everything like a second skin. Marcus navigated the space by memory and echo, his cane tapping against the warped hardwood floors that groaned underfoot, each creak a whisper of decay. Outside, the fog rolled in like a living entity, swallowing the streetlights until they were mere smudges distorting sounds, the muffled honk of a ship horn, the faint scuffle of footsteps that paused too long near his door. Was it the neighbor or something else? His fingers traced the cold window pane condensation, beating like sweat on fevered brow, the chill mirroring the knot in his chest. The room's shadows, though invisible to him, felt denser tonight, pregnant with unspoken threats. A subtle shift in air pressure, a whiff of ozone that hinted at electricity gone awry, or perhaps a leak from the old gas line snaking through the walls. He tilted his head, ears straining against the oppressive quiet, the fog not just a barrier but a mirror to his isolation, amplifying every unseen peril in this world of blurred edges. Marcus's fingers hovered over the keys, trembling not from cold, but from the weight of unspoken voids, each pause a chasm where melodies once flowed like breath. Why did the notes feel so distant now, like echoes from a life he no longer owned? He leaned back, the creak of the stool amplifying the silence that had become his companion. His blindness, not just a lack of light, but a fortress against the world's sharp edges. A tuning fork slipped from his grasp, clattering to the floor with a metallic ring that reverberated through his chest, stirring fragments of memory applause fading into sterile hospital hums, the doctor's voice slicing through his dreams like a dissonant chord. He didn't cry. Tears were for those who could still see hope. Instead, he sat frozen, breath-shallow hands clenched into fists that betrayed the numbness spreading like frost across his soul. What was the point of tuning strings when his own were so irreparably frayed? The fog outside seemed to seep into his mind, blurring the line between solitude and suffocation, his heart a muted drumbeat echoing regrets he refused to name. In that stillness, fear coiled not of the dark he knew, but of the emptiness that whispered he might never play whole again. He reached for the fork fingers, brushing dust, a subtle flinch at the touch, as if even that small act demanded too much from his guarded core. The hum grew insistent, a low vibration Marcus could feel in his bones, but he shook it off, attributing it to the building's age-old complaints. Then came the scratch, faint, deliberate, like claws testing the door's resolve, followed by a muffled whine that cut through the fog's hush like a distant siren's call. His head tilted, ears honing in. Was it the wind playing tricks or something alive desperate? He rose slowly, cane in hand, heart quickening with a mix of irritation and curiosity, the air suddenly charged with an unfamiliar scent, wet fur earth and something metallic like blood or fear. Pausing at the threshold, he listened as the whine softened into a hesitant breath, a presence waiting just beyond. In that suspended moment, Marcus felt a pull, a subtle thread tugging at his isolation, whispering that whatever lurked there might shatter his carefully tuned silence forever. The stage lights had once burned like distant stars, their warmth cascading over Marcus as his fingers danced across the ivory keys, weaving symphonies that lifted souls from the mundane. He remembered the thunder of applause, a tidal wave crashing against his chest, the scent of polished wood and perfumed admirers mingling in the air like a lover's promise. But that world shattered in a haze of fevered nights, the illness creeping in like fog over the bay, first blurring the edges of sheet music, then swallowing the light entirely. Doctors' voices echoed in sterile rooms, clipped and clinical, as if his sight were just another string to be retuned, yet no hammer could mend what was irrevocably snapped. Now, in the quiet aftermath, Marcus's hands, once instruments of magic, fumbled with tools in shadowed workshops, the applause replaced by the indifferent tick of metronomes. He avoided mirrors he couldn't see, but in his mind's eye the reflection stared back. A man halved his passion, entombed in darkness, regrets piling like unsorted scores. Why had he pushed away friends, lovers convinced his blindness made him a burden, a discordant note in their harmonious lives? The coastal wind howled outside, carrying whispers of what was lost, and Marcus sat motionless, his breath a ragged rhythm, yearning for a melody that might pull him from this silent grave. Flashbacks assaulted him, the final concert fingers slipping on keys, as vision faded, the audience's murmurs turning to pitying hush. He clenched his jaw, suppressing the tremor in his chest, isolation wrapping around him like a frayed blanket, both shield and prison. In the depths of night, he wondered if sound alone could ever fill the void, or if he was destined to tune others' instruments, while his own heartstrings frayed into oblivion. The fog pressed closer, a metaphor for the barriers he built, leaving him adrift in a sea of unspoken grief, searching unconsciously for an anchor in the storm. Dawn crept in with the muffled cry of gulls, but Marcus's world remained unchanging, a loop of echoes and textures that defined his frozen existence. He rose methodically, canes sweeping the floor like a wary sentinel, tracing the familiar path to the kitchen, where the coffee pot gurgled like an old acquaintance, its bitter steam rising to meet the salt-laced air. Tools clinked in his satchel, hammers, forks, mutes, each a talisman against the chaos outside his days scripted by appointments in dim parlors, fingers probing strings for imperfections he could hear but never see. The apartment's emptiness amplified every sound, the drip of a faucet like distant rain, the creak of floorboards underfoot, mirroring the cracks in his resolve. In the dim underbelly of a forgotten warehouse, where the air reeked of gun oil and stale sweat, Vigil had been forged not as a pet, but as a weapon, his silver-black coat a camouflage in the shadows of diplomatic intrigue. Handlers in crisp uniforms had molded him from poofhood, their commands sharp as whips, teaching him to scent the invisible explosives hidden in bouquets, poisons laced in wine glasses, the acrid tang of deceit in a diplomat's breath. He remembered the drill's endless nights under floodlights, his paws raw on concrete, rewarded with terse praise or punished with isolation in wire crates that hummed with the echo of his own heartbeat. But betrayal came like a storm without warning. His primary handler, a man with calloused hands and a voice like gravel, sold secrets to the highest bidder, leaving Vigil to take the fall in a botched operation. Gunfire cracked the air. A diplomat's scream piercing the chaos, and Vigil lunged instinctively, fangs bared against the shadows, only to feel the sting of a tranquilizer dart embedding in his flank. Marcus and Vigil moved through their worlds like echoes of the same wound, each step a testament to survival's quiet toll, their scars invisible yet etched deep into flesh and spirit. Marcus's blindness was a veil, much like Vigil's half-closed eye, both shields against a reality that had bitten too hard, leaving them to navigate by instinct rather than sight. In the shelter's sterile haze, where the air tasted of disinfectant and despair, Marcus's hand extended tentatively, guided by Lily's voice, while Vigil stiffened his silver-black fur, bristling like storm clouds. A low rumble vibrating in his chest, a mirror to Marcus's internal flinch at unfamiliar sounds. Their pains intertwined, Marcus's lost melodies paralleled Vigil's silenced commands, both betrayed by those they trusted, illness for one, a handler for the other, leaving voids filled only by wary solitude. The shelter's cacophony assaulted Marcus like a discordant orchestra, barks ricocheting off concrete walls like erratic drum beats, the metallic clang of cages slamming shut, the sharp tang of bleach mingling with the musky desperation of fur and fear. Lily's voice cut through the chaos, steady as a metronome, guiding his hand along the chain-link fences, where dogs pressed noses against wire, their whines a plea and a language of longing. But amid the frenzy, a pocket of stillness drew him Vigil's kennel, where the air hung heavier, scented with damp earth, and something sharper like ozone before a storm. Marcus knelt, his fingers extending through the bars, feeling the dog's rigid form, lean muscles taut as piano wires, breath shallow and measured as if conserving energy for an unseen battle. Then it happened. Vigil shifted one eye, closing deliberately, a subtle veil that sharpened the world in Marcus's mind, though he couldn't see it. Lily described it with a frown, her tone laced with doubt. He's odd that one shuts an eye like he's spotting ghosts. The urgency built a low whine escaping Vigil as distant thunder rumbled outside, mirroring the storm brewing in Marcus's chest, the dog's presence a magnetic pull against the shelter's urgent clock ticking toward closing. Chaos swirled volunteers shouting a yelp from another cage, but Vigil's silence screamed louder, his closed eye a harbinger of dangers lurking in the fog beyond, shocking Marcus into a realization this wasn't just a dog. It was a mirror to his own hidden perils. Marcus's mind waged war in the shelter's dim light, logic clashing against a swelling tide of empathy, his fingers lingering on the cold bars as Vigil's warmth radiated like a faint ember in the chill. What use was a dog to a blind man? He argued inwardly, a creature with its own scars adding to his burdens, walks in the fog. Food scattered like forgotten notes, the risk of attachment that could unravel like a frayed string. Lily's voice echoed his doubts, skeptical and sharp. He's got issues, Marcus. That eye thing, it's not normal, could be trouble. Yet compassion gnawed at the edges. Vigil's shudder under his touch, a silent echo of Marcus's own vulnerabilities. The dog's closed eye, a gesture that pierced his defenses, whispering of shared isolation. Fear gripped him, the fear of caring, of opening a door to loss again. But a subtle sign shifted the balance. Vigil's head tilted a hesitant lean into Marcus's palm, warm breath, ghosting over skin like a promise unspoken. In that instant, pity morphed into something deeper, a recognition that saving this dog might mean saving himself from the numbness that had become his cage. The decision surged through Marcus like a rogue wave crashing against his reservations, his voice steady but laced with tremor as he told Lily, "I'll take him now." Papers rustled in the shelter's humid air, signatures scrawled blindly under Lily's guidance, her skepticism hanging like fog. "You're sure he's not your average guide?" Vigil resisted the leash at first, his body stiffening, a low growl rumbling like thunder in his chest paws, scraping concrete as Marcus tugged gently, stumbling over a loose tile in his haste. The rescue unfolded in fragments, Vigil's limp accentuating each hesitant step, Marcus's cane clattering against the doorframe, the scent of rain-soaked fur mixing with the shelter's bleach sting. It was imperfect, raw. Vigil snapped at the air once testing boundaries, while Marcus whispered assurances, his heart pounding with the irrevocability of it all. As they crossed the threshold into the foggy night, the leash taut but unbreaking, a subtle shift occurred. Vigil's pull softened, following not out of force but nascent choice, the act sealing a bond born from chaos, messy as life itself. The apartment door creaked open like a reluctant confession, admitting Marcus and Vigil into the familiar haze of salt air and shadowed corners where the fog's chill clung to their forms like unspoken doubts. Marcus unclipped the leash with deliberate care, his fingers brushing Vigil's silver-black coat, offering a bowl of water that sloshed softly on the floor, simple gestures of space and sustenance, no demands, just quiet invitation. Vigil circled warily, one eye closed as he scanned the room, nostrils flaring at the faint hum from the walls, his body a coiled spring of mistrust. Yet he didn't retreat, pausing near the piano where Marcus sat, humming a low, soothing melody that echoed like a bridge over turbulent waters. The dog's ears twitched, a tentative response, his limp less pronounced as he settled in a corner, gaze fixed on Marcus with guarded curiosity. In that fragile interlude, a silent bond took root, Marcus's internal vow to protect this scarred sentinel mirroring Vigil's instinctive watchfulness, their shared vulnerability weaving the first threads of healing. As night deepened, the apartment felt less empty, the promise of trust hanging in the air like a suspended cord waiting to resolve. The apartment settled into an uneasy truce, its walls echoing with the tentative rhythms of two strangers bound by circumstance, the fog outside thickening like a barrier against the world. Vigil claimed a shadowed corner near the window, his silver-black form curled tight as a spring, one eye closed in perpetual vigilance, scanning for threats in the muffled hum of the city below. Marcus moved with deliberate slowness, his cane tapping softly to announce each step, respecting the invisible line Vigil had drawn. Growls rumbling low when he ventured too close, a warning like thunder rolling distant. The air hung heavy with unspoken boundaries. Vigil's guarded looks followed Marcus's every motion, ears flicking at the clink of tools or the sigh of the piano bench. His body language a fortress of silence, neither seeking nor offering contact. Nights stretched long, the fog pressing against glass like inquisitive fingers, amplifying the distance Vigil's breaths measured and shallow. Marcus's internal monologue a whirl of doubt. Was this a mistake, inviting another wounded soul into his isolation? In the dim glow of evening lamps, Marcus knelt with a soft cloth, the scent of antiseptic mingling with the apartment's briny air, his fingers gently probing Vigil's matted fur for wounds hidden like buried regrets. The dog stiffened at first, one eye closing as if to focus on the pain echoing from his past. But he allowed the touch a shared vulnerability, unfolding in the quiet Marcus's blindness, a shadow parallel to Vigil's scars, both bearing the weight of unseen battles. As he cleaned a faint cut on Vigil's flank, memories surfaced Marcus's own isolation. After losing his sight, the world retreating into echoes, much like Vigil's days in the security program, betrayed and left to heal alone. They shared food next, Marcus tearing bread into pieces, offering one from his palm while eating another, the crunch sinking their breaths, a silent communion of mirrored suffering. Vigil watched from his corner, wary but observant, his limp mirroring Marcus's hesitant steps as he navigated the room, their pains intertwining like fog threads, the dog's closed eye sensing a faint gas whisper from the walls, a low whine alerting Marcus to danger he couldn't see. In that moment, connection sparked. Marcus's hand paused, acknowledging the warning, his voice a murmur of thanks that hung in the air like a bridge. The apartment's shadows softened their unspoken wounds, binding them closer. Vigil inching nearer without touch, his presence a quiet anchor in Marcus's storm-tossed world. The ceramic cup slipped from Marcus's grasp like a forgotten memory, shattering on the hardwood floor with a sharp crack that echoed through the apartment shards, scattering like fragments of a life once whole. Vigil flinched at the sound, his silver-black body tensing, one eye closing as if to shield against the invisible assault, a low whine escaping his throat. Not aggression, but an echo of past chaos. Marcus froze, his unseeing eyes widening in internal vision, the noise catapulting him back to the concert hall's final night applause, fracturing into gasps as his fingers faltered on the key's vision, blurring like ink in water, the world tilting into eternal shadow. He knelt slowly, fingers sweeping the floor for pieces, each jagged edge a metaphor for his broken melodies, the scent of spilled tea, earthy and warm, mingling with the fog's briny intrusion. Evening light filtered through the fog-shrouded windows, like a hesitant dawn casting the apartment in a softer glow, where shadows danced less menacingly across the walls. Marcus sat on the worn couch, a piece of bread in hand, tearing it slowly, the crust's crisp snap, a gentle rhythm in the quiet space. He extended his palm toward Vigil's corner, voice low and inviting. "Here, boy, no rush." Vigil watched from afar, at first one eye closed in habitual caution, his silver-black form a silhouette of lingering wariness, but the scent of fresh-baked warmth wafted, tugging at instincts long suppressed. He rose limp, barely noticeable now, approaching with measured steps, paws patting softly like muffled heartbeats, and for the first time accepted the offering directly from Marcus's hand, lips brushing skin in a feather-light touch. No growl, just a tentative lick that sent a shiver of connection up Marcus's arm. In that instant, a spark ignited. Marcus's lips curved into a rare smile, a chuckle bubbling up from deep within, raw and unpracticed, echoing like a forgotten melody rediscovered. Vigil's ears perked, tail sweeping the floor in a slow arc, the first wag broadening into playful energy. He nudged Marcus's knee, inviting more, their shared moment, transforming the room, the air warmer infused with the earthy aroma of fur and bread. The fog outside seeming distant, a mere backdrop to this budding joy. The apartment hummed with a newfound quiet as night draped its velvet over the coastal city, the fog outside a soft barrier that muffled the world's intrusions, leaving only the gentle cadence of shared breaths. Marcus sat on the floor back against the couch, his fingers idly tracing patterns on the worn rug, the piano silent for once, as if respecting the moment's fragility. Vigil paced the room's perimeter, his silver-black coat catching faint lamplight limp, subtle now, each step a whisper of progress. His one-eye closed gestures scanned the shadows, but tonight it felt less like warning and more like habit, a relic of scars fading under tentative care. Hours slipped by in companionable silence, Marcus humming fragments of a lullaby from his youth, the notes low and soothing, drawing Vigil closer inch by inch, pause, hesitating on the threshold of trust. Then, without prelude, the dog approached fully, his warm body brushing Marcus's side, a tentative lean that evolved into a full rest head, dropping onto Marcus's thigh, the weight solid and reassuring like an anchor in turbulent seas. Marcus's breath caught his hand freezing mid-air before descending slowly, fingers burying into Vigil's fur, feeling the steady rise and fall of ribs, the subtle tremor of surrender. The apartment's newfound warmth began to fray at the edges as dusk bled into night, the fog outside thickening like a conspirator's cloak, muffling the coastal city's murmurs into eerie silence. Vigil, once relaxed by Marcus's side, grew restless, pacing with a stiffness that belied his limp ears, pricked forward, one eye closing in sharp focus, as if piercing veils unseen. A low growl rumbled from his chest, not at Marcus, but at shadows dancing on the walls, his posture alert, hackles rising like silent alarms in the still air. Marcus paused mid-hum, his fingers halting on the piano keys, sensing the shift through the vibration in the floor, the air charged with an ozone tang that hinted at storm or something more insidious. "What is it, boy?" he murmured. But Vigil only stiffened further, barking sharply at a whisper of movement beyond the window, a leaf or footsteps swallowed by mist. The dog's instincts flared body language, a tapestry of tension, tail-low eyes scanning the fog-shrouded panes where shapes blurred into phantoms, his closed eye a harbinger of threats echoing from the past. Subtle echoes resurfaced Vigil's whine, turning plaintive as if memories of the warehouse betrayal clawed back the environment, shifting from haven to harbinger, the fog whispering secrets of danger yet to fully reveal itself. The knock echoed through the apartment like a discordant note, shattering a fragile sonata, heavy and insistent, pulling Marcus from his reverie at the piano, his fingers freezing mid-chord. Vigil's growl deepened, a primal vibration that resonated in Marcus's chest, the dog's body positioning itself between him and the door, hackles raised like storm clouds gathering force. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmured, but his voice trembled, senses sharpening to the unfamiliar scent seeping under the threshold, cologne sharp as deceit mingled with the fog's brine. The door creaked open under Lily's cautious guidance. She'd insisted on visiting to check Vigil's progress, but the figure beyond wasn't her, a stranger voice, oily and familiar. "Marcus, old friend, it's been too long." Vigil's protective aggression surged, snarls ripping the air like thunderclaps, his one-eye closed stance locking onto the man-body coiled as if facing ghosts from the warehouse days. Flashbacks assaulted Marcus. This was Elias, the past client whose piano he'd tuned years ago, whispers of shady dealings in diplomatic circles now crystallizing Elias's hands on the keys, hiding bugs, his laughter masking lies tied to the very program that had scarred Vigil. Elias's silhouette loomed in the doorway like a specter from the fog, his voice slicing the tension like a knife through taut strings. "I need what that mutt knows, Marcus. The training codes from the program. Hand him over, or things get ugly." Vigil's stance hardened, one eye closing in laser-focused body, a barrier of silver-black fury teeth bared in a snarl that vibrated the floorboards, his limp forgotten in the primal surge. Marcus's heart raced, internal storm-raging blindness, amplifying every sound. Elias's shuffling feet, the click of a hidden device in his pocket, the ozone tang of deceit thickening the air. "You bugged my place for this," Marcus demanded, voice steadying as fragments connected the faint hum he'd dismissed Elias's past favors in diplomatic shadows, now crashing into Vigil's history like waves against the bluff. The confrontation escalated, Elias advancing with feigned calm, hand outstretched. "He's not yours, he's property." But Vigil lunged, a blur of motion, snapping inches from the intruder's leg, forcing him to stagger back against the wall. Marcus gripped his cane like a weapon, courage blooming from Vigil's unyielding presence. "He's mine now, get out before he makes you regret it." Flashbacks intertwined in Marcus's mind, tuning Elias's piano amid whispers of secrets, the client's evasion about security assets, paralleled by Vigil's memories of handlers barking commands betrayal in the warehouse's acrid smoke. The standoff stretched tense as a high-wire Elias's eyes darting to the dog sweat beating despite the chill, his verbal barbs laced with threat. You don't know what you're protecting. The door's slam reverberated like a final jarring note, leaving the apartment steeped in a heavy hush, the fog outside swirling as if to erase Elias's retreating footsteps. Marcus slumped against the wall, breath ragged, his hands trembling as they sought Vigil's fur warm and steady, the dog's side rising and falling in sync with his own erratic pulse. Lily hovered nearby, her voice a murmur of concern. He's gone, but we need to call the police. Yet Marcus nodded absently, focus on Vigil, who licked his wrist once, a gentle affirmation amid the chaos. Regret washed over him in waves for tuning Elias's piano without question for the bugs now scattered like confessions on the floor wires tangled and inert. Vigil shifted closer, head pressing into Marcus's chest, a silent promise of safety that bridged the emotional chasm. No words, just presence. His one-eye closed gesture softening to mere habit, tension ebbing from his frame. Physical separation lingered briefly as Lily swept the bugs away, but it dissolved when Vigil leaned in fully, their bodies a united front against the lingering scent of threat. The apartment reclaimed its sanctuary, shadows retreating under lamplight closure, settling like fog lifting at dawn past trauma, acknowledged, not vanquished, but contained. Marcus whispered, "We're okay." Fingers buried in fur, the bond reaffirmed in quiet closeness, a vow etched in touch, no more alone against the dark. Dawn broke unevenly through the fog, casting the apartment in a pallid glow that did little to dispel the unease settling like sediment in Marcus's mind. Subtle signs emerged first, a faint click in the lock as if tested by unseen hands, Vigil's ears pricking before Marcus could register the anomaly, his silver-black form rising from rest with a low, vibrating growl. The dog's body language shifted to high-alert tail, stiff hackles, a ridge of warning, one eye closing to hone in on whispers beyond the door. Footsteps muffled by mist, perhaps, or the rustle of fabric against the wall. Marcus's senses heightened in tandem, the air thickening with an acrid undercurrent like burnt wire or distant smoke, his internal monologue racing. Was Elias back, or worse, his allies from the shadows of the program? Vigil paced nose to the ground, body, a coiled sentinel, his instincts painting threats in the fog-shrouded streets below, a shadow lingering too long under the bluff's lamps, gulls scattering abruptly as if fleeing peril. Watchfulness consumed them. Vigil's gaze fixed on the window, a whine escaping as he nudged Marcus's leg, urging movement, the environment alive with omens, the creak of floorboards not their own, a distant engine idling too purposefully. Tension built in layers, animal behavior, the harbinger. Vigil's closed eye scanning horizons unseen, signaling danger's approach before human ears could catch the faint scrape of a tool against the doorframe. Marcus gripped his cane tighter, heart sinking with Vigil's rapid breaths, the fog outside a veil for stalkers, their haven turning hunted ground instincts screaming of pursuit tied to Vigil's past codes, secrets now clawing back with invisible claws. The fog-shrouded park blurred into a labyrinth of shadows as Marcus and Vigil burst from the apartment, the coastal wind whipping salt spray like accusations, Elias's allies closing in with footsteps that echoed like impending doom. Marcus's breath came in gasps, cane sweeping frantically across uneven paths, his world a cacophony of rustling leaves and distant waves crashing against the bluff. But Vigil's guidance was his lifeline, the dog's leash taut, pulling him left right away from the encroaching threat. The danger crystallized, a shout pierced the mist. There they are, grab the dog, Elias's voice laced with desperation, revealing henchmen emerging from the haze, their forms hazy but purposeful, one lunging with a net that whistled through the air. Vigil's one-eye closed signal honed in a low growl, turning to fierce bark as he veered sharply, leading Marcus behind a gnarled tree bark, rough under fingers, the scent of damp earth grounding the chaos. In the heart of the fog-choked melee, Marcus's decision crystallized like a perfect chord amid dissonance. He would not lose Vigil, not to these shadows from the past. As Elias's ally lunged, net raised like an executioner's tool, Marcus shoved forward blindly, body slamming into the attacker Kane, forgotten in the surge of protective fury, his shout raw, "Stay away from him." Vigil mirrored the resolve, positioning himself as shield silver black, form a bulwark between Marcus and the threat's fangs flashing in defense, a bite landing on an outstretched arm with a yelp that cut the air. The choice echoed in Marcus's mind, protect or flee, but action followed instinct. He grappled for the net, tearing it free with surprising strength, fingers numb from adrenaline, while Vigil's closed-eye focus darted, anticipating the next move, his growl a resonant vow. The park's fog lifted slowly like a curtain drawn back on a stage after the final act, revealing the coastal bluff in muted dawn light, the air crisp with salt and lingering adrenaline. Marcus leaned against a bench, breath steadying in long, deliberate inhales, his hand resting on Vigil's head, the dog's fur damp from mist warm beneath a tangible reminder of survival. Soft movements defined the moment, Vigil's tail sweeping lazily against gravel ears, flicking at distant gulls. No urgency now, just the gentle decompression of bodies unwinding from tension's grip. Marcus's fingers traced the notched ear, each stroke a pause, laden with reflection. The chase's echoes fading, replaced by the waves' rhythmic hush below, a peaceful underscore to their quiet vigil. No dialogue pierced the air. Instead, the aftermath unfolded in minimal gestures, Lily's distant voice on the phone summoning help, but here in their bubble only breaths and subtle shifts. Marcus's shoulders slumping as exhaustion claimed space. The apartment loomed in thought, a haven to return to, wounds, a scraped knee for Marcus, a minor bruise for Vigil waiting for care, but the emotional void filled gradually, safety's fragile return, seeping in like light through cracks. Long sentences stretched in Marcus's mind, pondering the crisis's cost, yet relief bloomed softly, their survival a testament whispered in the wind's sigh. Back in the apartment, days blurred into a steady tempo of recovery, the fog outside thinning to reveal glimpses of sun mirroring the gradual thaw within their shared space. Marcus moved with renewed purpose, his cane tapping a confident rhythm as he prepared meals, the sizzle of food in the pan, its savory aroma wafting through the air, drawing Vigil closer each time, the dog's nose twitching in anticipation, tail wagging in soft arcs. Small actions repeated like refrains, Vigil following Marcus from room to room, paws padding in sync, his silver-black form a constant shadow, eating together, Marcus's hand offering treats that Vigil accepted with a gentle nudge, their breaths mingling in the quiet intimacy of routine. Sensory details enveloped them, the warmth of fur under fingers during evening scratches, the faint jingle of Vigil's collar, as he lay close, the piano's notes resuming richer now, with Vigil's contented sighs providing bass undertones. Emotional recovery mirrored physically, Marcus's music flowed freer melodies, weaving hope where discord once reigned, while Vigil's limp eased his one-eye closed gesture, rarer a quirk softened by trust. They walked the bluff paths, leash loose, Vigil's stride matching Marcus's, the coastal breeze carrying scents of sea and earth that invigorated both, their bond deepening through interwoven behaviors, a head tilt from Vigil echoing Marcus's listening pause, a shared pause at the window gazing into the lifting mist. Lily visited her touch on Vigil's head, approving, "He's healing you as much as you're him." But the true mending was silent in the way Vigil slept at Marcus's feet during tunes, or how Marcus's laughter came easier prompted by the dog's playful bounds. Over time, the apartment hummed with life, their mutual healing, a symphony of small gestures, emotions rising like tides. Gratitude, loyalty, peace, binding them in a rhythm that pulsed steady, unbreakable.